My family treated me like a criminal for years. Now they're offering me a car because my brother finally got arrested, but I'm not their plan B. Hello everyone, this happened to me years ago. But guess what? My family has chosen to bring it back into the forefront. So here I am, putting it out there. I've been sitting on this story for a long time, and I'm still not sure how to comprehend it all. Here is the deal. I'm 23, but this narrative began when I was 15. It still screws with my head at times. I am the middle kid, trapped between my older sister Jenna and younger brother Derek. Jenna was 17 at the time, and she was always the sort to do the right thing. She was every parent's dream, responsible, ambitious, and all that. Derek was 11, and as the youngest, he was the golden child. In their perspective, he could never do anything wrong, and was always given a free pass. And then there was me, the middle child, just trying to stay out of trouble and forge my own path. My parents always maintained they were all about fairness, distributing things evenly and making sure we all had the same possibilities. But, in retrospect, that notion of fairness was nothing more than a facade. They viewed Jenna as the family's future CEO, Derek as the infant they needed to protect, and me as if I was just there. Not terrible enough to cause an issue, but not good enough to shine. Now, my father has this collection. He didn't collect stamps or coins like some individuals. It included pocket knives, baseball cards, and a couple autographed baseballs. He had an entire shelf in his bedroom dedicated to these items, like a shrine. He'd tell stories about where each thing originated from, how much effort he expended to obtain them, and how much they were worth. It wasn't my style, but he loved it. Some of the goods were also valuable. He didn't make a lot of money, but he was proud of it. But items from his collection began to disappear. The first item that went missing was a pocket knife. This wasn't just any knife. That was his favorite. He'd shown it to me before, talking about how it had a distinctive design and how he had traded with a collector to obtain it. One morning, he found it had vanished. At first, it was simply a little irritating. He assumed he misplaced it or had left it somewhere. However, a week later, one of his baseball cards vanished. Then another knife. It did not take long for him to become suspicious. He asked Jenna, Derek, and myself about it. I didn't give it much thought at first because why would I care? I told him straight up. I hadn't seen it. Jenna and Derek agreed, but something about his expression made me wonder if he believed me. Then came the day when everything changed. He discovered one of his missing knives in my room. I'll never forget this. He charged in, holding the knife as if it were evidence in a trial. "Why is this here?" he insisted. I just froze. I have no idea how it got there. I told him, I don't know. It's not mine. But he didn't believe me. "Don't play dumb," he remarked. "This is my knife." "What's it doing in your room?" From that point forward, I was scrutinized. Every time something went missing, it was entirely my responsibility. It didn't matter what I said or how strongly I disputed it. They had already made up their minds. The issue is, I had no idea how that knife had gotten there. I'm still not sure if Derek planted it or if it just happened to be there. But that didn't matter to my parents. They considered the fact that it was in my room to be sufficient proof. And it wasn't only my parents. They started discussing it with the rest of the family. My grandparents, relatives, uncles, and cousins all knew. Every time we had a family gathering, I felt like I was in the limelight. People made comments, some subtle, others not. My uncle once joked, "Better keep an eye on your wallet around him," and smiled as if it was a joke. My grandmother would give me these stares, as if she couldn't believe I had turned out this way. At school, things were not much better. My mother informed one of her friends about what was going on, and that friend happened to be the mother of a student I went to school with. You can guess what came next. It spread like a wildfire. Suddenly, children started muttering about me in the halls. I'd hear comments like, "Isn't he the one who stole from his dad?" I kept my head down, but it wasn't easy. How can you prove you didn't do something? The more I disputed it, the more guilty I appeared. I felt caught in a game where no matter what I did, I couldn't win. Derek, on the other hand, appeared unconcerned by the entire situation. He was constantly in the background playing games, doing his schoolwork, and acting like the innocent child he was meant to be. Jenna remained impartial, unwilling to become involved, which stung in its own way. I hoped she'd stand up for me, but she didn't. She simply kept her distance, as if the whole event was beneath her. The accusations were not the worst part of the situation. It affected how I felt about myself. I began to distrust everything. I'd keep rehearsing each conversation in my thoughts, trying to figure out what I'd done to deserve it. I even worried if I was stealing in my sleep or had forgotten about it. I understand how absurd that sounds, but when everyone around you treats you like a thief, it can mess with your psyche. My parents kept telling me, "We're just trying to help you learn from your mistakes." But whose mistakes? I did not accomplish anything. At least I did not believe I did. The distinction between what I knew and what they believed began to blur. I started to isolate myself. I stopped hanging out with friends because I didn't want to have to explain why I couldn't go out or why I was always stressed. I stayed in my room as much as possible, avoiding my folks' constant questioning. "What else have you taken? Are you lying about this too?" By the end of that year, I felt like an outsider in my own home. I did not trust my parents, siblings, or even myself. All I wanted was for people to trust me, but it wasn't going to happen. So, after my father discovered the knife in my room, things went from bad to worse. It felt as if I had been formally identified as the thief and there was no turning back. My parents felt they needed to teach me a lesson, and let me tell you, they weren't playing around. A few weeks later, things continued to disappear. One of the autographed baseballs went missing, and that wasn't just any ball. It was signed by his all-time favorite player, whom he often brags about. I heard him cry from his room, "Where the hell is it?" My stomach fell. I was already stiff as I sat on my bed, and the fury in his voice caused me to shake. I wasn't even sure why I was nervous. I had done nothing wrong, yet I couldn't stop the panic from setting in. I heard heavy footsteps approaching my room and knew what was going to happen next. My door sprang open, and there he stood, brandishing the empty display case as if it were a blazing pistol. "You've got 5 seconds to tell me where it is," he said snappily. I stammered, attempting to say I didn't have it, but he cut me short. "Don't lie to me again. I've had enough of your crap." His voice sounded so loud that I thought the walls may crack. I barely had time to say anything before he tore through my room like a tornado. "First the knife, now this. What else have you taken? Is there anything in this house I can trust you not to steal?" He was opening drawers, dumping my clothing on the floor, tearing apart my rucksack, and looking under my bed. I simply stood there, shaking, and trying not to cry. When he didn't find the ball, he became even enraged. "You think you're clever, don't you?" he exclaimed, pointing his finger at me as if I were a criminal caught red-handed. "Hiding it somewhere I won't find it? Well, guess what? You're not going to get away with it this time." At that point, my mother entered. But instead of calming him down, she joined in. "Where is it?" she questioned, her tone stern and accusatory. "We've given you chance after chance, and this is how you repay us." When they left me alone in my room, I began to question myself. What if they were right? What if I was taking things without realizing it? I mean, how else could the stuff keep disappearing? Perhaps I was sleepwalking or having memory problems. I even started looking up terms like unconscious stealing and memory lapses to see if there was something wrong with me. It sounds stupid now, but at the time, I was desperate for an answer. If I couldn't trust my family to believe me, how could I possibly trust myself? That night, they sat me down and handed out new regulations for me, implying that my life was going to get worse. At first, it was minor things like being grounded for a few days or losing my TV access. But as more items went missing, the consequences became much more severe. They began grounding me for several weeks at a time. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, not to a friend's house, the park, or even for a trip around the block. They confiscated my phone and sold my laptop. I wasn't even allowed to read the books I enjoyed since, according to them, privileges had to be gained back. It did not stop there. My father had this thing where he assigned me duties as part of my disciplining. However, these were not typical jobs like putting out the trash or cleaning my room. He would come up with things to make my life miserable. He forced me scrub the garage floor with a brush by hand because that's what happens when you disrespect other people's property. My mother wasn't any better. She'd make passive-aggressive comments whenever she could. If I asked for anything as simple as a snack, she'd remark things like, "Oh, now you're asking permission. How nice of you." Or, "Haven't you taken enough from this family already?" It was consistent, and eventually it got to me. They seemed to dislike me for more than simply the missing items. Looking back, I can't get my head around it. How could parents punish their own child like that for something so trivial? It wasn't as if they were losing thousands of cash or valuable antiques. It was a knife here, a baseball there, and it really wasn't worth all the hoopla. But they acted as if I had ruined their life. Their anger for me was apparent and cut deep. And let us not forget about Derek and Jenna. Derek sat back and watched, never saying anything. He'd be playing video games or watching TV while I was cleaning the baseboards or organizing the pantry. Jenna, on the other hand, like the entire incident didn't exist. She remained in her room for the majority of the time, barely realizing what was going on. I suppose it was her way of staying out of the drama, but it felt like betrayal. Following that, they decided to cancel my birthday. I was meant to acquire my driver's license when I turned 16, just like any other youngster, but they stated I hadn't earned their trust yet. No party, no gift, not even a happy birthday. It was just another day in which I was treated like a criminal in my own home. I had enough of their continuous punishments. I tried talking about it with my parents once. I explained how difficult it was to be treated this way, as if they were punishing me for something I did not do. My dad's reaction: "If you don't like it, maybe you shouldn't have taken things that didn't belong to you." My mother simply nodded in agreement, as if the conversation had ended. What truly struck me was the inconsistency. My mother would act as if she was trying to help me turn things around one minute, and then express her disappointment in me the next. My father would do the same thing, seeming to be teaching me a good life lesson while actually finding new ways to make me feel like a failure. After a while, I stopped fighting back. What was the point? Whatever I stated, they would not believe me. I thought that if I kept my head down and did what they wanted, things would improve. By the age of 17, I was no longer the same person I had been. The continuous accusations, punishments, and isolation had taken a toll on me. I wasn't simply angry anymore. I was tired. I was tired of trying to explain myself, of hoping things would improve, and of feeling like the black sheep in my own family. What occurred to me at the age of 15 shaped my perception of myself and the world around me. Even now, I find myself doubting my own value, wondering if I deserve the nice things in my life, or waiting for the other shoe to drop. Even when things are going well, it's as if the part of me that was crushed by their distrust never entirely recovered. My parents stopped treating me like a son. They treated me as a problem that they had to deal with. Every interaction with them made me feel as if they were waiting for me to make another mistake. My father would scarcely look at me unless he was yelling or questioning me about something that had gone wrong. He acted as if every mistake, no matter how minor, demonstrated that I could not be trusted. He'd get upset if I neglected to do a chore or left something out. "Of course, you can't even do this right." My mother wasn't any better. She'd cease attempting to hide her disappointment in me completely. Every time Mom spoke to me, she either lectured me on responsibility or reminded me of how much I had let them down. She had this habit of sighing every time I entered the room, as if just seeing me there was enough to destroy her day. Even though I attempted to avoid them, it wasn't enough. If I stayed in my room for too long, she'd walk in and say, "You're not going to hide away forever. That's not how you fix things." But when I tried to connect, it merely offered them additional opportunities to show me how much they distrusted me. They stopped giving me the benefit of the doubt. If something went missing, even if it was as trivial as a pair of scissors or a pack of batteries, I was automatically held responsible. My father would remark, "Let me guess. You have no idea where it went," in a tone that made it apparent he suspected I was lying. It didn't matter how many times I denied it or how convincing my case was. They had already concluded I was guilty. The toughest part was the continual anxiety. Every sound in the home made me jump, like if I were always waiting for the next outburst or accusation. I'd find myself stressing about minor things like leaving my room unclean or accidentally knocking anything over. Even when I wasn't being yelled at, my mind would tell me I was about to be. It was like walking on a tightrope, but I had no idea when or if I'd fall. It's strange how quickly you adjust to situations, even when they're unfair. I stopped expecting my parents to be fair or kind. Instead, I kept my head down and avoided any situation that would lead to another confrontation. I'd spend most of my time in my room, only out when I needed to eat or complete one of the many duties they set me. Move forward a few years. I'm 23 now, living alone and doing my own thing. I moved out shortly after turning 18 and never looked back. I hadn't spoken to my family much since then, just a quick text here and there during the holidays. For the most part, I maintained my distance. Then one odd afternoon my phone rang. It was my mother. Honestly, I almost didn't answer. We hadn't had a genuine conversation in years and I wasn't in the mood to seem polite, but something urged me to respond, so I did. I sensed right away that something was wrong. Her tone wasn't as casual as I was used to. It seemed hesitant and nearly wobbly. "Hi, sweetie," she began. "I hope you're doing well. I need to talk to you about something." I didn't say much, just a brief, "What's up?" because I really had no idea where this was headed. That's when she smacked me with it. "Things have been going missing again," she told me. I sat up straighter. "Missing? Like what?" She listed off a variety of items, including some of my father's collectibles, cash from their wallets, and even my mother's jewelry. It was far more serious than the things from years before, but she went on. "This time we knew we had to be sure before we accused anyone." That's when I realized where things were going. I swear my heart stopped for a second. Were they going to drag me back into this mess? Were they really calling to blame me for something I wasn't even present to take? But then she said something that confused me. "Your dad set up cameras in the house," she told me. "And we caught Derek." Derek, my younger brother. The golden child. The one who couldn't do anything wrong. I couldn't understand what she was saying at first. "Wait, what?" I finally made it out. She continued on to explain. They had put cameras in the hallway leading to their bedroom. And sure enough, they caught Derek sneaking into my father's room late at night. He had been stealing things and hiding them in Jenna's former bedroom. He seemed to have been doing it for years, possibly even whilst I was still living there. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or scream. On the one hand, I felt justified. All those years spent being blamed, punished, and humiliated. It was not me. That was never me. But on the other hand, I was enraged. I was furious that it had taken them so long to find it out. I'm furious that they let it go this far and left me with trauma that I still suffer with now. My mother kept babbling, apologizing, and attempting to explain. She stated she and my father felt terrible about how they treated me. "We should have believed you," she explained. "We were wrong, and we're so sorry." Sorry. That is what she said, as if one word could instantly undo years of being treated as garbage. Then she said, "We want you to come to my birthday dinner next week. It would mean a lot to us if we could see you and talk about this in person." I did not respond right away. I just sat there clutching my phone, debating whether to hang up or let her finish. I eventually stated I will think about it and hung up the phone. My mind raced once I hung up the phone. All these years they'd made me feel broken, like I was a liar and a thief, and now they wanted me to simply show up for a pleasant family meal and let bygones be bygones. I was unsure what to do. Part of me wanted to tell them to put their apology where the sun doesn't shine. But another part of me, perhaps the one that still desired some sort of closure, wanted to hear them out. A few days later, my father, David, called me. That surprised me because he has never been one to accept his mistakes. He started with the normal small talk, asking how I was doing and how work was going. Then he came to the point. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," he explained. "I messed up. We messed up. We should have trusted you." Hearing those remarks from him seemed weird. For years he was the one who punished me the most, making sure I felt the full brunt of each punishment. And now he's saying he was incorrect. But then he said something that really confused me. "We're going to make it up to you. We're planning something special, and I think you'll like it." When I inquired what he meant, he just answered, "You'll see," and left it at that. In the days coming up to my mother's birthday, I debated whether I should go. I didn't want to forgive them yet, but I was curious about what they had to say and what they were prepared to do to make things right. At the same time, I couldn't get over my fury. Throughout those years, they treated me like a criminal, while Derek got away with everything. And now that the truth had been revealed, they anticipated a fast apology to resolve things. It wasn't as simple. When the day of the meal arrived, I still hadn't decided. I considered texting my mother to say I wasn't coming, but something stopped me. Perhaps I wanted to see whether they were sincere about making amends, or maybe I just wanted to hear them say it in front of me. Regardless, I chose to go, so I showed up for my mother's birthday dinner. And let me tell you, I wasn't really excited to be there. I hadn't seen most of my family in years, and now I was supposed to sit at the same table with them, as if everything was normal. The dinner was at a luxury restaurant that my parents would rarely visit unless it was for a special occasion. My mother greeted me at the door as if nothing had ever happened. "I'm so glad you came," she said, smiling as if she hadn't been treating me like a criminal for years. My father was already at the table, giving me an awkward nod that I assume was his way of apologizing. The first half hour was odd. My parents tried to make light small talk by inquiring about work and seeming to be interested in my current situation. Derek was also present, sitting at the opposite end of the table, looking as if he wanted to be somewhere else. I didn't even make eye contact with him. But the mood shifted when one of my cousins, Chloe, tried to stir the pot. She's the type of person who can't stop making a spectacle, and this evening was no different. Out of nowhere, she shouts, loud enough for the entire table to hear, "Better keep an eye on your wallets, everyone. You know how things tend to go missing around here." I swear the entire restaurant went silent. My father tried to shrug it off as a light-hearted joke, but I wasn't having it. I leaned forward, looking directly at her, and said, "Don't worry, Chloe. I'm sure your boyfriends say the same thing about you when they're comparing notes." Yes, it was harsh, perhaps too harsh, but I was not in the mood to play nice after hearing her comment. Chloe's face flushed crimson red, and she began crying. Her father, my Uncle Frank, instantly jumped in. "That's enough," he shouted while scowling at me. "You've got no right to talk to her like that, especially after everything you've put this family through." I couldn't believe what I heard. "What have I put this family through?" I asked. "Are you serious right now? After all the crap I went through because you people couldn't figure out who the real thief was, you're still blaming me?" Frank doubled down, stating something about family unity and how I needed to be more courteous. I could not handle it anymore. I stepped up, looked directly at my parents, and stated, "This is what you created. You turned me into the family scapegoat, and now you expect me to just sit here and take it? Forget it." Then I walked out. I didn't even get to my car before my father caught up with me. "Wait," he said, more agitated than I'd ever seen him. "You don't have to apologize for what just happened. That wasn't your fault." I paused and glanced at him. "You're damn right it wasn't my fault. But what are you going to do about it?" He did not have a response. He just stood there, visibly uncomfortable. "We're trying to fix things," he finally said. "We really are." I did not respond. I just got into my car and headed home. A few days later, Jenna called me. She hadn't attended the dinner, which was understandable given that she had been residing in another state and had only visited on rare occasions. "Mom told me what happened," she explained. "And for what it's worth, I think you handled it better than I would have." Jenna has always been the calm one, but hearing her side of the story made me feel better. She informed me that Derek had finally admitted to everything, including not just the recent thefts but also those from years earlier. Jenna said, "My mom had a complete meltdown when she found out. She's been crying for days." Jenna admitted that she felt terrible about how she treated you. "Good," I said. She should feel terrible, but that did not mean I was ready to forgive her. Later that week, my mother called again. This time she sounded frantic rather than regretful. "We want to make this right," she stated. "Your dad and I are selling some of our things to help pay off your student loans, and we're planning to get you a new car. It's the least we can do." I told her straight up, "I don't want your money and I don't want your car. You can't buy your way out of this." She started crying again, but I didn't mind. For years I had been treated as if I were the family's failure. And now they think a few pricey gifts will help me forget about it? Not a chance. But things changed when Derek was detained. He had stolen my grandfather's pickup and slammed it into a streetlight approximately 2 kilometers from their home. The truck was totaled, and my grandparents were outraged. They booted him out and wouldn't let him return until he paid for the damage. My parents terminated Derek's college fund to help with the expenses. That's when I discovered they intended to use some of that money to purchase me the car they had been talking about. The irony was almost humorous. When my father called to inform me about it, he sounded more despondent than I had ever heard him. "We've made so many mistakes," he explained. "I don't expect you to forgive us, but I hope you'll at least let us try to make things right." I wasn't sure what to say. Half of me wanted to believe him and give them a chance to make things right. But the other half of me, the one that had spent years being blamed, chastised, and humiliated, was not ready to let go. I told him I'd think about it, but deep down I already knew the answer. After everything that had happened, including the dinner, the arguments, and the repeated calls from my parents, I was done. I'm done with the apologies, the guilt trips, and the pretense that this might all be fixed. I gave it a lot of thought during the following few weeks. Every time my phone rang, I had a pit in my stomach, knowing it was probably my mother or father calling to check in again. I did not respond most of the time. What was the point? They consistently said the same things. "We're sorry. We're trying to make things right. We just want to move forward." But none of it seemed real. The truth is that apologies cannot restore years of damage, particularly damage perpetrated by family members. They do not remove the shame, self-doubt, or total loss of trust. My parents seem to believe that admitting their mistakes will miraculously make things better. But this is not the case. My sister Jenna contacted me one night to check in. She's the only one I still feel comfortable talking to. And if she didn't always have my back when we were younger, I believe she understands now. "You don't owe them anything," she replied. "If you're not ready to forgive them, that's okay. Do what's best for you." That stayed with me. I had spent so much time figuring out what they wanted and needed that I had forgotten to consider what I wanted. And all I wanted was serenity. A week later, I received another call from my father. This time, he was not making excuses or attempting to shame me into forgiving him. He sounded tired and nearly defeated. "Derek's still being held," he said. "The charges for stealing the truck and the damage he caused are serious. Your grandparents are refusing to help, and honestly, I can't blame them." He went on to say that they had decided not to intervene this time. He needs to face the consequences. My father admitted, "Maybe this will finally wake him up. We've tried everything else, and it clearly hasn't worked." His voice was heavy, as if he couldn't comprehend what had happened. He shifted the subject back to me. "We're trying to rebuild the family," he told me. "We want you to be part of that process. We'll do whatever it takes to make things right with you." I did not say much in return. I just let him speak. After he finished, I said, "I'm glad you're trying to fix things, but I'm not ready to be a part of it. I need time, maybe a lot of it." He exhaled. "I understand," he replied. "Just know that the door is always open if you change your mind." Around the same time, my mother sent me a lengthy email. It was the first time she had truly put everything into words, and I could tell she meant it. She apologized for the years of mistrust, for not defending me, and for allowing things to get so awful. She stated that they had failed as parents and did not know how to make up for it. "I admire your efforts, but the harm has already been done. I'd spent years trying to get them to see me for who I truly was. And even though they ultimately did, it didn't change the reality that they had already broken me. The reality is, I am not sure if I will ever forgive them. Do I let go of my anger and go forward? To be honest, I feel like I've been much better off without their continual turmoil since I left. I've created a life for myself that feels lighter, freer, and, honestly, more peaceful. I'm not sure how they got back into my life again. I'm fatigued just thinking about returning to that situation, even if they're attempting to change. For the time being, I'm staying put on my own to figure out what I truly want. I will keep you all updated if anything changes, but for the time being, this is where I am." Final update. Hello everyone, it's been a long since I explained what was going on and things have changed. After everything that has happened with my family, I've finally reached my breaking point. Derek was eventually released from his arrest. My parents allegedly scraped up enough money to assist him post-bond, and the court let him off with probation because it was his first serious infraction. But even though he's free, he's still in trouble. Jenna informed me that he is staying with our grandparents, but they are keeping him on a tight leash. To demonstrate that he is maturing, he must obtain employment, pay rent, and adhere to tight guidelines. After all of that, you'd think he'd be remorseful or want to improve, but he didn't. Derek, according to Jenna, has been taking money out of my parents' emergency savings account to buy video games and snacks. It isn't as spectacular as stealing a truck, but it's enough to convince me that nothing has changed. Meanwhile, I could not help but compare. I was kicked out for years for something I didn't do. And now they were bending over backwards to offer Derek chance after chance. When it came to me, they decided to treat me like dirt until I left. But they couldn't bear to cut Derek off, no matter how much harm he wreaked. That's when I made a decision. I sat down one night and penned a message for my folks. I kept it succinct and direct. No extensive explanations or debates, just the reality. I basically said, I appreciate the effort you've made to apologize and make things right. But the truth is, I don't think I can ever fully trust you again. The way you treated me for all those years, assuming the worst, punishing me, isolating me, it's something I can't just forget. I need to move on with my life, and that means cutting ties for now. Maybe someday I'll feel differently, but right now, I need space. Please don't contact me anymore. I'll reach out if and when I'll. Jenna contacted me the next day, and I explained what I had done. She did not condemn me or try to persuade me out of it. I get it, she replied. You have to do what's right for you. That was the most validating statement I'd heard in a long time. Derek never contacted me, not that I expected him to. Jenna told me that he's been acting as if nothing is his fault, which doesn't surprise me at all. It's simply who he is. It's been several months since I sent that mail, and I honestly feel comfortable about my decision. Cutting ties was difficult, but it was necessary. For the first time in a long time, I believe I can breathe. I've been focusing on my own life. It isn't flawless, but it's mine, and that's what counts. My parents still have a long way to go before they can truly mend our relationship. Saying sorry is not enough. They'll have to show that they've changed, and I'm not holding my breath. For the time being, I'm done being the scapegoat, target, or project that they believe has to be fixed. Sometimes leaving is the only way to heal, and it was the only option I had left. Thank you for staying with me through this. I'll let you know if there are any further updates. For the time being, I'm focusing on living a drama-free existence.